Hello, my fellow Toastmasters and the guest members. Welcome to Downtown Toastmasters Speakeasy Club. I am Anup Shahare and I'll be leading today's Toastmasters meeting. We have two guest members. I would really request them to stand up in their positions and introduce themselves and how did they hear about us.
Hi, this is Minnie again. This is the second time I came here. Last year I was here. I see familiar faces, so I believe that people would remember me because it was just last week. So I'd like to join this club, probably starting from April, and I came here to, I'm going to take a pic again. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you a guest member?
Yeah, technically, although you guys kind of know me at this point. I'm Kelly. Filling out the application as we speak, so next week I'll be officially a member.
Last week I had a speech. I had my first icebreaker, and it was about how food connects people. It was basically about like how food revolves around me or how I revolve around food. So I thought like why not give it a second part. So today we are going to have, I'm going to share my food gasms. And today's topic is food. I would like to start with a prayer. Vadani kavana gheta, nama घ्या श्री हरीचे, सहज हवन होते, नाम घेता फुकाचे, जीवन करिचे विद्वा, अन्न है पूर्ण ब्रह्म, उदर भरण नोहे, जानिजे यज्ञ कर्म. It's a big prayer, sorry. As a child, we used to pray before our every meal. It means that eating is not merely for filling stomach, but is a sacred act of consuming healthy meal for a complete digestion. And so be humble and satisfied with the food. We should always remember that we are indeed so blessed to have food of our own choice. There is nothing wrong in being humble. We should be grateful to the fire that cooks the food. We should be grateful to the rain that harvests the crops. And we should be always grateful to the hands that serves us the food. A simple way to express this gratitude is by saying Thanksgiving, Annadata Sukhi Bhava. It means, hey Lord, please bless the people who served me this food. From my last speech, I got a feedback. People wanted to know like what type of food I normally cook, what type of food I like. I mostly cook Asian food. It's mostly Indian and Chinese and Thai food. So today I'm going to share some of my recipes. It's part American, part Indian. So how do we cook food in 10 minutes? It's going to be all about that. Before that, we would like to start with group weights. And so I'm going to ask a question and we'll go around the table and get opinions of people. The question is, what's your favorite food? Any memory related to the favorite food? Or the food you hate the most and why? Would you like to share it?
My name is Cheryl, and my favorite food is steak. And my best memory was my ex-husband saying that he would hate for me to choose between him and a steak. And guess who lost?
At the expense of sounding redundant, I love steak, and specifically I love filet Oscar, which is a filet covered in crab meat with béarnaise sauce over the top of it. Del Fresco's just out there has the best filet
Yes,
Oscar
I know.
ever.
I love it.
It's over the top good. And my strongest but worst memory is having two of their martinis there. Those things are like bathtubs, and I felt horrible afterwards. But it was still a fantastic meal.
Yeah, I love that place.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Back on the VP of Education, or, yeah. If anybody has an extra writing utensil, please pass it over. Food that I hate is liver. I remember as a child, there was never enough ketchup to put on the liver.
Nick Cox, VP PR. I'm from Iowa. My favorite food's got to be steak. But I tell you, one of the things I found is HelloFresh.
Yeah.
Love it. Your food comes ready to be prepared in a bag. It's all right there. You get to feel like you're actually making something, and I'm a hero at night when I cook for my wife. It's great.
My name is Matt McCormick, and my favorite food after pizza, I could probably eat a disgusting amount of pizza every day. And my memory of pizza is when I was in high school playing lots of sports, I could never gain any weight, so I'd have like a mini frozen pizza every night. But I couldn't get it. It was awesome.
We have a recipe for that.
Hi, my name is Chris Breidenbach, and I'm also from Iowa, which means that I have to love corn. And so one of my favorite, I don't know if it's a meal or anything, but maybe a side dish that I experimented with starting a couple of years ago is when corn is in season and when Colorado peaches are in season, I make a combination of the two. So I use a fresh Colorado peach, a couple of ears of Iowa corn, and then I put them together. I add in some tomatoes that I grow on my deck, as well as basil that I also grow out there. I put in some olive oil, usually throw in some other crap, stir it up, and it's absolutely fantastic. So that's my favorite dish.
I'm Kelly Rutledge, and my new favorite food is lamb. I've never been a big lamb fan. I don't know, just always had that gamey taste to me that was just weird, but I found a recipe in this cookbook that I brought home from Israel when I was there a couple of years ago, and it's very Middle Eastern, all these amazing spices. In my house, I made it on Saturday for a going away party for one of my best friends who's leaving for Florida, and my house still smells like lamb, so.
Lamb fan.
Hi, I'm Mona Lucero. Thanks, Snoop. I haven't had anything to eat today, so I'm from Colorado. But what I really love is bread and butter, tortillas and butter, croissants and butter, anything that is similar to bread and butter in any form. All types of butters, love it all.
Cool.
My name is Kelly, and I really just like seafood. Fish creep me out on a level I cannot describe, to the point where I hate going to aquariums. I don't want to know what lives in the ocean. They all just look weird to me. Don't want to be in my body.
I'm Durbin, and my favorite food since I was probably able to eat almost 2.5, let's say, it has been chips and salsa to a T. I love Mexican food, and I love salsa, and now I love making my own salsas, and that one sounds really good with Iowa corn in there and peaches. I'm going to do that. But hopefully I'll make you some salsa this summer. Hold me to that.
Hi everyone, Lauren Wilson, club president. Every year I go to Charleston, South Carolina, and I've been going there since I was about 4. And we go to a place called the Boathouse, and I eat a slice of key lime pie. And the best memory was the first time I ordered that key lime pie. My family made the mistake of ordering it in, and it takes me literally an hour to eat one slice. Now everyone's sitting there waiting, so now I get to go.
Hi, it's Mimi. I'm originally from South Korea. I immigrated here like about 1.5 years ago. So naturally my favorite food is Korean food. And I say that I cannot live without kimchi, which is fermented cabbage. And it can be very pungent, so it's not to everyone's liking. So it may be acquired taste, I say. But recently I made one, and it just bravely failed, and it backed up in bathroom when I was trying to grind it in the kitchen. But it's for another story, so maybe elaborate when I deliver my first speech. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. See, I got all of you thinking about food today. Moving on, we'll go ahead with the role introductions. So, let's welcome Cheryl for the joke or inspirational quote for the day.
I'm going to tell a true story. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm going to tell kind of a true story that happened real quickly. I just had a birthday, and my girlfriend had said she'd sent me a present. So something came, so I ran to the office, I picked up the present, came home, opened it, and it was like 20 pairs of underwear. So I'm like, so I text her, and I want to be tactful. So I said, I love the underwear. How did you know I needed it? she texted me back and said, well, I sent you a gift, but it wasn't underwear. So I went and pulled a package out of the trash, and it was addressed to my next door neighbor. So I taped it up, took it back to the office, and got my actual birthday present, which was a birthday wine glass with decorations on it.
That was hilarious. Next is Mona. Mona, can you please introduce about your role?
Sure. I am the awe counter today. What that means is I will be clicking anytime I hear filler words or ahs, especially so's. And
The reason why we do this is to just remind you when you're using those words, don't be like Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Barack Obama.
Thank you. The next role is the word of the day. Lauren, can you please come forward?
Hi, everybody. I'm here for Marion's today. And as my role, I have, first of all, the word of the day, which will be a plum, which means complete and confident composure. In a sentence, we could say, so far, Anoop has taken on the role of Toastmaster with much aplomb.
Thank you.
So we'll put that, you can try to use this as often as you can throughout the meeting. I got it, I did a makeshift thing. And I'll be counting that. The other thing I do as grammarian is look for good uses of the English language. One thing that Linda started a while ago was looking for great adjectives. So instead of saying you did a great job or wonderful or those things, having a really descriptive adjective like that was entertaining or something like that. So I'll be looking for those uses of the English language. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin is not here, right? Who is taking over? Okay. So Pat, please introduce about your role.
I'll be fulfilling the role of timer and vote counter today, so I'll be hitting the green button for table topics, prepared speeches, and evaluations at the start of the threshold. Matt and Nick, what are your speeches?
6 to 8. I'm thinking 5 to 7.
So 5, 6, we'll hit green, then midway yellow, red. And giving a report at the end of the meeting, and then collecting the ballots after the general evaluation and announcing the winners later in the meeting.
Next is Chris.
Very supportive group today. I'm going to need that support because as the role implies, I am going to be evaluating the meeting generally. I'm going to pay special attention to the evaluators. I'm going to give them feedback on their performance, and I'm also going to just take a look at how the meeting runs as a whole and how the other people perform their roles. I'll give a short breakdown at the end. Thank you.
I may not be a good Toastmaster or a good speaker, but I can definitely do a aplomb job of cooking food. So today I'm going to share some of the peaks. This is the first Thanksgiving meal I ever prepared for my foster parents. And these are the foods, different delicacies from India. And that's my favorite samosa here. Next comes a recipe. It's called egg bites, and it only takes 10 minutes of your time. The first step is to have small broccoli florets. Chop them into small sizes. Take half of jalapeno. Depending on your spice level, you can increase the jalapenos. Then beat 3 eggs. I'm using 3 eggs because the pan I'm using, I want it to be crispy. So I use only 3 eggs. If you want to go more, you can go more. Then add salt, mix well. Add the chopped broccoli, jalapeno, cheddar and mozzarella cheese. Mix them well. Grease the pan. I got this pan from dollar store. You can, it's the easy way to access that. Grease it well with butter or oil and preheat the oven at 400 Fahrenheit. Put the pan in it for 25 minutes. I normally do it 20 minutes, and after 20 minutes I check if after 20 minutes it's soft. And if I like it crispy, so I keep it for another 5 minutes. After 25 minutes, serve it with tomato ketchup and the coconut chutney. Moving on, I'm going to set out all the recipes.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to our next phase is prepared speech. Please listen to the speeches carefully because we have to select the best one today, as we have got 2 incredible speakers. Let's welcome Durban to introduce Matt for his speech.
All right, it is with my great pleasure that I'm introducing Matt today to complete his second speech titled My Dating Life. His objectives for this speech are to select an appropriate outline that is easy to follow, make message clear with supporting material, and use appropriate transitions. I relate to this, Matt. Matt is a sleep-deprived new dad with a new job. He is proof that there are walking zombies outside in the real world. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. No more ripping pants.
Yeah.
That wants to. My dating life has been an absolute comedy of errors. My friends always posited that it was just merely bad luck on my part. But I submit to each and every one of you today that I was genetically predisposed to having an erroneous dating life. See, it started with my father back when he was in high school. Got the gumption up to ask this girl out on a double date. It was he, his friend, their 2 dates, went out and had some great Mexican food. Enjoyed it, went to the drive-in movie theater, took in a great flick. And afterwards, I dropped my father's date off first. Pulled up to her house in the 2-door car, 4-seater, my father and his date in back. My father reaches down, grabs the lever, pushes the seat forward, and he leans over with his date closely in tow to get out. And at that inopportune point, that's when the Mexican food caught up with him. Needless to say, there was no second date to be had. Now you're probably thinking, Matt, there's no way your dating life could be possibly as bad as your father's. Started in high school. Was dating this girl for a while. She thought it was time for me to formally meet her parents. I'd said hi in passing before, nothing on a formal occasion. It was Thanksgiving. They invited me over. Pressed my finest blue jeans, walked up to the porch, ready to put on my best Eddie Haskell impression. And there was her father, sitting atop the porch, slowly rocking in the rocking chair, rolling a cigarette between his fingers. He had one of those pencil-thin mustaches, well-greased, standing broad. And he looks up below the brim of his hat and says, "Son, why don't you go step on inside?" So I'm shaking in my boots. I walk inside, I sit down, and start talking with the family. Things are going swimmingly. My compliments on her mother's cooking are well-placed but not over the top. My one-liners are really landing at dinner, and it's going great. So I noticed a cross-stitching above the fireplace in their living room that stood proudly. It was a centerpiece of their whole downstairs. And I looked at it, and it was on the alphabet, and it went H-I-K. That's what I thought to myself. Where's the J? It would have been fun if I thought that quietly to myself, but unfortunately I thought that to myself out loud at the table. And that's when her mother, pleasant as always, slowly pushed back her chair and said, "I'm going to go check on the pies in the kitchen, please excuse me." And that's when her father said the second thing to me. He said, "Son, that has been up there for 15 years and nobody's been rude enough to point that out to my wife yet." So I move on to college, a few years wiser, having learned from my prior occasion. There was this girl in my dorm, beautiful girl, smart, no way she would go to a party with me, but I asked anyway. It was a kegger that night. She said yes. It was amazing. So we show up to this kegger. The keg rolls out. They tip it up. They hand me the tap. I have 2 solo cups in hand, and I'm going to be first in line to get my date and myself a beer. I grab that tap after inserting it, press down on the nozzle. Anybody want to guess what's going on here? Yeah, nothing but foam, right? You guys not been to a kegger before? Come on. Nothing but foam. Most people would see this as a problem. I see this as an opportunity to show off my mental acuity to my date. I'm a smart guy. I'm a hell of a guy. I run in the kitchen. I grab this big tub. I come back out and I fill this sucker full of foam. In 10 minutes, my date and I are drinking beer. Everybody else is waiting a good another 20, 30, 40 minutes. So I fill this sucker up. I put it in the corner of the garage. I walk inside, pour myself a cocktail. Maybe 2, maybe 3, I don't know, I forget completely, but it was probably more than 1 if I'm being honest with myself. And 10 minutes goes by, 20, 30, 40, 50. I completely forget about the beer in the garage, but then it hits me. I have beer outside. I'm going to go check on it. I stumble out into the garage. I see it sitting in the corner. I lean down. I touch this bowl. It's not cold anymore. It's a little warm. It's all right, but it has this nice golden foamy head on top still. It just looks fantastic. So I grab this thing. I pick it up. I have an audience in there. Of course, I'm a little inebriated at this point. I want to show off a little bit, so I take this thing. I start chugging it back and taking it down. See, out of the corner of my eye, my buddy Andy comes flying by, knocks that thing out of my hands, spilling it everywhere. And I'm confounded. If he wanted a beer All he had to do was ask. He didn't have to knock it out of my hand rudely. I was sharing. And that's when he pointed out that there was a long bathroom line in the latrine, and he thought that was a place that he could go in the garage. So I proceeded to show everybody what I had for dinner that night and threw everything up that I just drank all over the floor in the garage, and yes, my date saw that too. Needless to say, I did not get a kiss from him. Move on to graduate school, a couple years older, a little bit wiser, having learned from those prior two experiences. Similar story, been dating this girl a while. Her family wants to meet me on a more formal basis, of course. Why wouldn't they decide we're going to Glenwood Springs, Colorado. That fabulous place right off I-70. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. We're going to go sulk and sit in the sulfur hot springs and enjoy ourselves. And what do you do when you go to Glenwood Hot Springs? What's the first thing you do? Anybody? It's a tough audience. You go down the water slide. That's what everybody does. So we get there. I get the little stamp on my wrist to go up to the water slide, and my date and I climb the stairs, and I grab the double tube so I can nestle in behind her before we go down. We line up, we're at the top, she's nestled right in front of me, we push off, away we go. We're flying down this thing, gaining speed with each corner. And being the doofus I am, I'm leaning at every corner trying to push this up as high on the sidewalls as I can. And it's a fully enclosed tube one. And no sooner did my date turn around and look at me and say, "Matt, you jackass, you're going to flip us if you keep pushing like this," to, I leaned a little bit too hard. We went up over the side, upside down, and bam! Came crashing down on our heads. The bottom out comes the tube, out comes my date, there I come last, crashing into the pool. It takes me a while to orient myself, get the water out of my contacts, shake the water out of my long, flowing golden hair that I had at the time. I look over, and there's my date on the side of the pool. There's her family around her. There is an emergency personnel individual looking at her. Oh, her arm is not hanging right off her shoulder. Yes, I completely dislocated her arm. And not only did I dislocate her arm, she made sure everybody around me knew I was the one that dislocated it. Off to the hospital we go to get it reset, get pain medication. I spend the rest of the weekend in the hotel tending to her, working on pain management while her family's out enjoying themselves. Heck of a first impression. Now, I wouldn't blame anybody in this room for thinking to yourselves, hopefully, "Matt, your dating life has been an abject failure." But I would summarily disagree with that. Because if I had not insulted my high school sweetheart's mother, if I didn't swill a big bowl of pee in front of my college cutie, I'd have never had the occasion to dislocate my wife's shoulder.
Can you move the laptop?
Thank you.
Back when you come up.
Thank you, Matt. Moving on to next speech. Moving on to our next speech. Please welcome Pat for introducing Nick.
Thank you. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Nick Cox. He's a longtime Toastmaster with the downtown group. He plays hockey, and as was already mentioned by Chris, he's from the Midwest, like me, from Iowa. Today he is going to give a 5 to 7 minute speech entitled "It Affects Us All." He's stepping in at the last minute, so it doesn't really fit any particular manual, but it was awesome that he could fill in at the last minute. And his goals today are to give a well-organized speech with no mistakes and deliver it with passion and a call to action. So without further ado, let's welcome Nick to the stage. Thank you.
Show of hands, how many attended the March for Life past Saturday? So a couple of us. Any idea how many people were there, Kelly?
No.
I think the estimate was 35,000-ish. I was one of those 35,000, and I actually carried a sign, first time I've ever participated in a march. On one side it says, "I am a concealed carry gun owner." On the other side it said, "I want stricter gun laws now." This is my wife's idea, she did that one, but I thought it was a good idea because it was poignant. First time out, it was pretty successful. I had probably a dozen people come up to me and want to shake my hand and just say, I am so glad that you came out. We want more people like you to come out and participate in this conversation. I had a half dozen guys come up to me and say, dude, I feel exactly the same way you do. I'm a gun owner and I want stricter gun laws. And I had a guy from National Geographic do an interview with me, which was kind of cool because I got to actually use some of my Toastmaster skills. It was like a table topic almost. And he said I did a pretty good job. So I felt pretty good about it. I am actually a concealed carry permit holder and I do have a gun. And I do want stricter gun laws. And for example, one of the things I like to see is a change where the law doesn't protect you if you want to go to a bar and get drunk and carry your loaded gun. I think it's one or the other. I think you can go to a bar and get drunk, but leave your gun at home. Or if you feel like if you want to protect yourself, fine, bring your gun, but don't go to a bar to get drunk. If you can't drive drunk, you shouldn't be able to carry a loaded weapon while you're drunk. So just one example of a change that I think we could implement. The thing that I'm pushing for, the thing that I'd really like to see, the change, the law, the restriction that I want to see happen, is limiting high-capacity magazines to 12 rounds. When I go to the range, I'm a pretty good shot. So 12 rounds is bang, 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 bang. If I can't hit my target in 12 rounds, then I should not be carrying a gun. Because who knows where those bullets that are missing are going. There's several reasons why I would like to see magazines reduced to 12. And the first one is it doesn't impede on anybody's Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment does not say that you are allowed to carry 100 rounds in your magazine for your loaded firearm. I'm not looking to take away guns. I just want to restrict the number of rounds that you can shoot by pulling the trigger. And I've talked to people about this down at the range. A lot of them say, listen man, I can switch out a clip faster than you can just shoot your gun. And I'm fine with that. Dude, if you can do that, that's awesome. You are probably a responsible gun owner, and I don't have a problem with you having the ability to switch out your clips faster than I can shoot my gun. But for 99.9% of us, that's not the case. It takes us a few seconds to pop out a cartridge, reach for another one, put it in, and get it cocked and ready to shoot. Now you may think that a few seconds is no big deal. What's the difference? To that I say, listen to the audio of the guy that shot up the Las Vegas concert. You'll hear 80 rounds. People are scattering, taking cover. There's almost 80 people died in that first shot. Then there's a 10-second pause. That 10-second pause is when everybody ran for cover. That's when the people got the hell out of there and got to safety. That 10-second pause was time for him to reload. And that's what saved lives. He had to take 10 seconds to reload his firearm. And during that 10 seconds, people were able to seek cover. If I'm taking cover and I've got my gun, some maniac is trying to shoot up the theater that I'm at, I can't move until he stops shooting. When is he going to stop shooting? He's going to stop shooting when he reloads. If you limit him to 12 rounds, that gives me a chance to use my firearm to protect my wife and take the man down. That's all I'm asking for, is a fighting chance. And it works. It works. Gabby Gifford, the representative in Arizona, she was shot. Her bodyguard was shot and killed. A few other people were shot. Her security guy took the guy down when he stopped to reload. A few years ago, along the railroad, a guy walked down the railroad with a gun and executed people in their chair, one after the other, until his gun ran out of bullets. And when it did, he was tackled by three of the train wrecks. They were able to tackle him, take him down, and stop him when he stopped to reload. You guys may not be aware of this, but actually in this building, there was an altercation, gun altercation, and 2 people here died. This happened a few years ago. It affects us all. It touches us all. It's getting closer and closer. There was a guy that shot up in Aurora Theater just down the street. It's a small change, but I think it'd make a big difference. And if you feel like I do, please contact your representative, contact your senator, let them know how you feel, ask them to make the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Please take a moment to fill out the feedback for Matt and Nick. Please make sure that you provide the feedback based on their personal goals. I'm going to share another recipe in the meantime. So it's called cream chicken, and the prep time is on again 10 minutes. Simple steps: choose cilantro or spinach, whichever you like. Chop them and put it in a blender along with ginger, garlic cloves, 1 tablespoon of oil and salt. Blend it well. Then take 1 chicken breast, cut it into small pieces, put it in a bowl. Add the paste on top of it. If you want to add more spices, you can add it. Let it sit for another half hour so that it marinates well. Once it is done, heat oil in a pan, like 1 tablespoon of oil, not more. And you can place the chicken in the pan to cook. Or you can also grill them, put them in the oven, and you can grill them for another 20 minutes. And once it is done, you can serve them with tomato ketchup and ranch. Moving on, we'll head to the table topics of the meeting. So let's welcome Cheryl for the table topics.
Hi, my name is Cheryl, and the purpose of Table Topics is to help individuals learn how to speak and prompt in quickly on the topic. I call it off the cuff. You get a topic, you speak on it, that's Table Topics. So many of us find ourselves in areas that we have to be quick to speak. So that's what Table Topics teaches us. So the first, who would like to volunteer to be the first? Okay.
Chris.
Thank you, Chris. All right, so the question for you is, this Easter is coming up. So what is your memory of your favorite Easter dinner?
Understood, thank you. I'd like to start by saying that you know you're a terrible lapsed Catholic when you completely forget about Easter. And I had no idea this Sunday was Easter until I was exchanging texts with my old boss last night. We were talking about grabbing a beer, and he's a religious family man. He was like, hey, let's grab a beer on Friday. I had plans. I was like, no, let's get out on Sunday. He's like, hey man, that's Easter. You should celebrate with your family. In any case, it's not my current boss, he's my old boss, so maybe I don't have to impress him as much. But in any case, one of my favorite Easter memories isn't so much about the Easter dinner, was about dyeing Easter eggs. So when I was growing up, I had an older brother and a younger sister, and as a family, we all dyed Easter eggs. Well, it didn't take my younger brother and I very long to realize that if we mix up all these paint colors and splash them kind of haphazardly on the eggs, they look a lot like camouflage. And so we can do a great job of hiding eggs in the yard for my little sister on the subsequent Easter egg hunt if we paint all the eggs camouflage. And so we had our brown and green speckled eggs that we would then hide in the yard, and they would be completely invisible. And then my little sister, who wasn't quite old enough to dye the eggs with us, would then be completely incapable of finding the eggs. And we would have a bunch of spoiled eggs for a couple weeks to come. So that's my favorite Easter memory.
So is there anybody else that would like to try a maple topping? Anoop has been gracious enough to share many of his country's food with us. So I'm wondering, if you've traveled, what country have you gone to that you thoroughly enjoyed the food?
Okay, thank you. When you're traveling, you get to try all different types of food. Some you're gonna like, some you're not gonna like. And I think a lot of countries are really known for their cuisine. So Greece comes to mind, Italy comes to mind. You know, the places that don't come to mind are several of the countries I've been to. One of those countries is New Zealand. We went to New Zealand last year for my honeymoon. And we were all excited. We went skydiving, we went mountain biking, adventures galore. But when you go to get food, there's nothing. You got pizza, which you can get at home, but you pay about twice as much to get it in New Zealand. There's hamburgers, which they cook to a crisp. But my favorite is that you're on the coast all the time, and they do often have fish on the menu. Fish tacos, fish burritos, just fish. But they never tell you what kind of fish it is. It always just says fish. And you would ask the waiter, what kind of fish is it? And they're like, oh, you know, the kind from the sea. But you would eat it, and it was quite delicious. Also, the funny thing about New Zealand is that one animal that comes to mind is sheep. There are sheep everywhere. I actually heard that at one point there were 4 million people in New Zealand. Guess how many sheep there were? 75 million. But you'd think you would go get some lamb, right? Well, no, there's no lamb in any other restaurants. Nothing. They must ship it somewhere. I don't know who's eating the lamb, or maybe that's why there's so many, because they're not eating it. But anyways, to answer the question, don't go to New Zealand for food, because you're not going to find something really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody said pizza, so let's
I have no idea what
get a recipe for the pizza. It is the easiest recipe for pizza. You just have to have the bread. You take few slices of bread, like fresh slices. Make a paste of cilantro, garlic, ginger, and 1 green chili. Again, depending on your spice level, you can increase the chili. Add salt and little bit of oil. Make a nice paste of it and apply it to the slices of bread. On top of it, add tomatoes, slices, chopped onions, bell pepper, and black olives, and mushrooms. Add mozzarella cheese on top of it and put it in the oven for another 15 minutes. In this recipe, you will have to keep checking the bread because the bread will burn. After 15 minutes, serve it with tomato ketchup or ranch. Okay, next. So let's move on to our evaluation. So Darban, please come to front and share your feedback for Matt.
Thank you. Matt, wow, this is my first evaluation for the record, and that was an incredible speech. That was so well done. Your eye contact, your body language, the storyline, I think we were all absolutely enraptured by your speech. You were a plum to a T. I also did read at the bottom of your sheet here that you do Toastmasters because you find that you regress in speaking for work when you stop talking at Toastmasters. You say you're not a natural like some of your colleagues. I would absolutely beg to defer. Again, being your second speech as well, you seem like you are well through, you're a competent communicator, you've been doing this for ages. Very, very impressive. I had a hard time finding things to give you feedback on. Again, your eye contact from the get-go really impressed me. You scanned the room, you looked at everyone's eyes. I felt like we were all the only person you were talking to. Your intonation as well was super impressive. You started out a little bit quieter, so you were able to capture our attention. And your body language, your use of the space was very well used as well. Perhaps that would be one thing to use even more. When you were running, you could come all the way over to this side and back over. But I do think you used your space really well. Your humor, spot on. I just have a check next to my notes. Your use of imitation and language was really great as well for painting a picture and helping us envision being a part of the story, being a part of that memory. Like when you were sitting at the dinner table with your girlfriend's father and her parents and his voice and his mustache, but his voice especially was something I think we can all relate to and get a good giggle at. Obviously, your organization of the speech was incredible. You had a really good beginning, setting the tone for how dating life for you has been a disaster, and giving the high school, college, and grad school trajectory for us to consider. And then your use of language and grammar, there was nothing simple about your adjectives, especially the golden foamy head on the beer, and the long flowing blonde locks, and your contact lenses. We were all a part of this story. I loved your transition of saying that you're older and wiser at each point. Your transition was incredible. I think one area of feedback I could give you for a speech like this would be taking a little bit longer of pauses between points of emphasis. And then having the ending be that this is your wife, that couldn't have been a better conclusion to a horrible historical dating record, especially with a broken arm that's at Glenwood Springs. We've all been there. You used your audience by asking who'd been there. It was really well done. Great job. Thank you.
Let's welcome Pat for Nick's feedback.
Thank you, Adu. First off, let's congratulate Nick on a great speech. I think he succeeded in all of his goals. Before I get to his specific goals, I'm going to point out some other things that I think he did really well. First off, I think he was extremely comfortable. Up here, I call it the stage. I'm not really sure what we should call it, but he's just very comfortable. He even brought a prop, and he integrated that very well. He involved the audience as well. He started off with a question and tied it into current events. I think most of us have seen something about the March for Our Lives on the news over the past weekend. Another thing that he did really well too is that the content really drove his body language, his vocal variety. That's something I've been working on myself and I struggle with. Even the bang bang, and I'm assuming I wasn't counting, but I'm assuming it was 12 bangs too. So as I was saying, the content really drives exactly your rhetorical devices. It was very practical and pragmatic. You didn't assume people knew anything. I'm in particular, I'm a gun novice or ignorant of everything about guns, so I appreciate the fact that you didn't assume that we knew anything in the first place. It was very relatable and personal. I made it very personal. As far as places where I think you can improve, I thought some of your pauses got to the point where they were almost a little bit too long when you were going in between topics. One good thing about that is it shows that you have discipline to not use filler words. A lot of people say, don't click those. That's an example. But it came off to the point where it looks like you're trying to remember what you're trying to say next, which I know you're such a perfectionist, and so that can just look slightly less polished. I thought that's the sort of feedback you're looking for. In addition, in those moments too, I thought you briefly lost eye contact as well, because I do the same thing. I look up a little bit because I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say. But returning to your original goals, there's obviously passion and call to action. You expressed that. I think we all got that. You're very congruent with your facial expressions, language. It all was very congruent. It was well organized. I characterize it as problem, solution, examples of the solution, and then call to action. Very simple, easy to follow. And you wanted something that was essentially mistake-free, and I felt like I was just nitpicking, so it was as close as you can get. Again, thank you.
Pat, would you like to share your time report?
Yep. All the speakers today were aplomb when presented to the group. Everyone qualified. Nick was 617, Matt 730, table topics, Chris 130, Lauren 150, evaluations Durbin 230, Pat 244. So please, if you would, use your ballots at the bottom of the evaluation and fill in the best evaluator, best table topic, best speaker. I can go over those names again, anybody that needs help, and pass those to me.
Thank you, Pat. Now let's hear the report from Primary.
Hey everyone, we did a great job with not only the word of the day, but also using really fun words. For word of the day, I got Anoop, Durbin, and Pat. Did I miss anybody? No, great job. In terms of catching fun words, I listed a few for everyone. Matt, you had too many to write down, but a few of them were comedy of errors, inopportune. The Mexican food caught up to him was just a really funny way to say something we all knew what actually happened. Mental activity and confounded. Nick, you used a lot of good words. I thought one time when you were talking about what you wanted to see, you used all of your words. I think it was restriction, law, and change, and I thought that sort of helped bring a little bit more meat to what you were talking about, to have kind of multiple words you were using. You talked about no big deal for just a couple seconds and then went on to really explain why it was such a big deal. It was really powerful. People able to seek cover, give me a fighting chance, and go ask them to make change. I thought those were all very strong words. Chris, I like the text message that you said you should go celebrate with your family. I thought that was pretty funny, and the haphazardly leading to the camouflage was really hilarious. Durbin, you used 3 great words: enraptured, intonation, and envision. I thought were all very descriptive. And Pat, I caught discipline and also congruent. You kind of used as bringing everything together. I thought that was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Let's hear the report from Mona for the R counter.
I'm really disappointed with certain people here. There were virtually no Oz with certain people. But there were a bunch with a few others. You probably heard more clicks than normal, and that's just because I've been here for a while and you know how important it is for everybody to hear when they're using those filler words. It really does help as you go along. And one way you can notice this is all of the speakers who have been here for a while virtually had nothing. They had no Oz or us for the most part. And those people I want to point out: Matt, Lauren, Chris, Pat McCormick, and Nick. And if I were to give the Awe Counter award today, I'd give it to Nick. I think you did a great job also, but in particular Nick, because we know that Nick was doing an impromptu speech. It takes so much discipline not to say ah, so, like. Those kinds of words really are so easy to bring in. And Nick didn't do it. I want to give you a round of applause.
Let's welcome Chris for his general evaluator feedback. Thanks.
Okay, well, I can't go through all the roles, so I'm going to pay special attention to a few. I want to talk about Anoop and his first performance as Toastmaster. This is your first time, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk briefly about Cheryl. I think she did a wonderful job today, and I also want to talk about the evaluator. So I'm going to start with Anoop. I think you did a great job, especially for your first time. One of the things that I liked most was starting the meeting off with a prayer. So your topic, the meeting topic that you chose was food, and you told us about how your family always started a meal with a prayer. And so starting the meeting with a prayer really kind of drew us in, like we're in the intimate setting of a meal at your house. At least that's the connection that I drew, and I really liked it. And starting with a prayer doesn't have to be, I think it can be taboo in some circles, right? Because we live in such a secular society, and many of us really like that. But I think it added to the intimacy of the meeting, and I really like that you kind of brought a little bit of your home to the meeting in that way. I like the fact that you used the opportunities to address the crowd yourself to give us recipes. You did that for the downtime between speeches, and you also did it kind of to introduce your topic as well. One thing that I would suggest, this is probably too much detail to get into in the times that you had. And if you're planning to send out the recipes that you present anyway, you might want to just put something up on the screen, maybe a really good picture of the dish, and give a general description of, hey, this is a really easy pizza, it's on bread, this is the type of stuff that's in it, this is what it tastes like. And that way we have a pretty good idea of what it is that you're telling us we should try, and then you can send out the recipe later, because it'd be hard to furiously scribble all this down. I know I'm not that fast of a writer, and you don't want people to be distracted by that. You want them to be looking at you. Another thing it also does, which is what I'm doing right now, it's a lot of stuff for you to read off. And so it takes you away from the audience and puts you facing the visuals. Another thing, you didn't take them down. So they were always behind the speakers. And one thing I think as a Toastmaster, you should try to highlight the speakers and the other roles, the people that come to the front, and you having visuals behind them, I think, takes away from that a little bit. So one suggestion. But otherwise, you started the meeting on time, at least as far as I can tell. I'm not wearing a watch. You kept us on schedule, transitioning from role to role really well. Overall, I think this was a fantastic job, especially for your first time as Toastmaster. And I especially like some of the visuals too, because I know when I've been Toastmaster, I usually don't take the time to prepare slides or things like that. Sometimes I pass things around. This really shows a professional level of preparation, and I think you did a wonderful job of that. So, no, it deserves the applause. I've probably taken too long talking about Toastmaster here. I do want to recognize that Cheryl did a great job doing something that I haven't seen before, and that's tell a personal story as the joke or inspirational quote. Usually, I just come up here with some stupid joke. That personal story was funny, and I think it had us all, it taught us a little bit about you as well, and I think that was a great way to do it. As for the evaluators, just general comment for both of you guys. I've said this before when I've been general evaluator. You both kind of got up here and read your introductions. And I think it's important to try not to do that. And I don't think it's actually that hard, because there's not that much information on that page. If you take a minute to take a quick look at it, and you don't have to read the whole thing, just because it's there doesn't mean that everyone needs to hear it. So I think that if you take a minute to look at what are their goals, what's the topic of their speech, maybe something else that's worth highlighting, and just stand up and say that without looking down and reading it, I think it makes for a little bit better introduction. That said, both of you guys had delivered it pretty well, so it wasn't as if you were reading the entire time. You did a great job with that. Durbin, this was your first evaluation? You did a great job for that. I think that one of the things that I really liked about it was that you, actually this was maybe a good thing and a bad thing in some ways. So you didn't do the sandwich method structure. You didn't say, hey, this is what I liked about Matt's speech. These are the things that you can improve upon, but in summary, you're fantastic. That's kind of that's a traditional way of structuring an evaluation. You kind of just went through, maybe not even chronologically, but just topically, things that you liked about the speech, and then room for improvement along the way. And I think you did a good job of that. I mean, it can be tough with an experienced speaker to think of ways that he can improve, but you found some good things, some things that I certainly didn't think of, like using the space a little bit better. I think you did a wonderful job of that. And the only reason I say that that method might be a bad thing, it takes away from the structure of your evaluation. And I do think that it's important to have some structure when you're going through, when you're delivering any kind of speech. So it can be helpful. You know, one thing, if you don't want to use the traditional sandwich method, something I've tried is saying, hey, I'm going to talk about your organization, I'm going to talk about the content, and I'm going to talk about your delivery. And then talk about those topics, and you can organize it that way. Just food for thought. Pat, you did use the sandwich method, and you did a fantastic... I didn't even catch that. I'm going to assume that it was great. But you did use the sandwich method, and it was really effective. You went through the things that, you highlighted the things that Nick did really well, and I agree. I couldn't think of anything content-wise that I disagreed with you on. I think you did a great job of that. Also, I noticed that you had a sheet with notes, but you barely ever read it. So, and my sense is you probably had twice as many notes on that sheet of paper than you had on the introduction for next. So just something for you to think about in the future. You did it really effectively, and it's not that you can't use notes. I think it's that, you know, there's effective ways and less effective ways of doing it. And you used notes in a really effective way when you gave the evaluation. It was structured really well. I don't have anything that I would add. You did a great job. Overall, great meeting, guys. Thanks.
Do we have winners for the vote counting?
Yes. Best speaker was really, really close. It was Nick Hernandez. Best evaluator was also very close. Best table topics, Chris.
Okay, let's head towards our guest members. Please share us what you think about today's meeting.
Hi, it's me again. I loved the meeting. That's why I came back from last week. And you guys set up the bar really high, so I'm a little nervous having to present and having to prepare for my first speech, but I know I'll get through it, so thank you.
I'm Kelly. I don't really have a whole lot of new feedback to share. I keep coming, so that probably speaks for itself. So again, I'm looking forward to becoming a member and getting to know you all much more.
Do we have any club announcements?
Yes, I have a couple. Hi guys, I want to mention a couple things. So maybe you don't know, but the officers of the club meet once a month to talk about the club and figure out what we can do better. And why do I bring that up? One is that you can always come to us if you have suggestions or want to see changes. And otherwise, I wanted to mention that we will have the officers handover in July. So this is a little advance notice, but if you're thinking about getting more involved in the club, please let us know if you'd be interested in an officer role. I've got a long time to think about that. Second thing I want to mention is that dues are due. And I think a lot of people in the room have paid, but some of you haven't. Mona's got the list. If you see anyone outside, make sure they pay their dues so they can keep coming. And those are paid every 6 months as a reminder. And yeah, Mona, do you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah, just one thing. Somebody paid for their dues, but I don't know who it is. It was American Express 3003, probably on the 14th of March. So if that's you, let me know.
Yeah, we've got a mystery mover. And the last thing I wanted to mention is just do a monthly highlight on pathways, which you've been hearing a lot from Pat. I've asked, well, all the officers have agreed that we're going to try to all get engaged in pathways over the next month so that we'll have experience to talk to folks about that. We're kind of recommending if you're already started on your competent communicator, feel free to finish that. If you are new, you are going to be launched right into pathways though, and we'll work with you on that. So just wanted to make those announcements. Anybody have anything else?
Thank you, Lauren. today I shared 3 recipes. I do have a total of 9 recipes, and I'll be sending all those recipes in the meeting recap. And with this, today's meeting is adjourned.